KTAR News, 92.3 FM, Arizona's news station. Reality Check starts now.
It's a little bit after 6 o'clock. Should be America's hottest city, but we going through a cold spell right about now. Storms throughout the valley. We are live and local all the way up until 8 o'clock tonight here on KTAR News. We will keep you updated, let you know how I-17 is looking, what's up with the 216, the 87, I-40 and all that. This radio station goes statewide, baby. And we will keep you up to date on everything with Lauren Griffo and, of course, our KTAR Traffic Center. My name is Darren Dammೆ, and this is Reality Check. Thursday and Friday, I went out and did a little bit of javelina hunting. Actually caught some heat for that, and we'll get into that a little bit later because I took my 13-year-old son, and some people thought, man, you're going to teach a kid about the sanctity of life by killing something at 13 years old? Correction. His first kill was at 11. And I'm very proud of it. And we'll talk about it after a little while here. And I'll be honest with you. I'll tell you exactly why I would not change a thing. Very quickly, you just heard Lauren Griffo talking about this. I'm very happy that the Speaker of the Arizona House has said that he will not hear a bill that makes participating in or helping organize a protest that turns into a riot an offense that could lead to criminal racketeering charges. In other words, civil asset forfeiture. Not that I like rioters, not that I like people creating a scene, but I do not like government going in and taking all of your assets, especially when they take advantage of that situation and you don't even have to be convicted of a criminal offense for them to do that. Civil asset forfeiture is completely stepping all over the Constitution, and it needs to be stopped. And this show will do everything that we possibly can to not only have this bill stopped, but have the laws in Arizona changed to where they cannot take your assets unless you are convicted of a crime and those assets were ill-begotten because of that crime. So that's good news right there. Tonight on the show, we're going to talk about Trump's war with the lying media. It does continue. He's not going to be at the correspondents' dinner. The DNC is driving themselves off of a cliff with their new leader and these goofy town hall protests. People are comparing it to the Tea Party. It is the opposite of the Tea Party. Also, let's see here. John McCain's foundation. This was really interesting. John McCain's foundation here in Arizona is supposed to be all about stopping human trafficking. Guess how much money they've donated to groups that stop human trafficking? Well, with the records that we currently have, the number is 0. And we'll break that down for you as well. Plus, of course, you got that money from Saudi Arabia. Could be a big problem there, too. But we'll break it all down for you. Right now, I want to start off with Paul Penzone. You know, being out in the desert for a couple of days, hanging out, my poor 13-year-old son, he's like, Dad, if I got to listen to the same story about Paul Penzone again, this is going to drive me crazy. Well, but it's pretty important here because as you know, 2 Fridays ago, our newly elected Maricopa County Sheriff said, hey, I'm going to change the policy here. And we are no longer going to honor courtesy holds for ICE. If they want to pick somebody up, if they suspect that these people are guilty of illegal immigration or here in this country illegally, they're going to have to get them outside of the jail walls. Many of the reasons why he stated were, well, somewhat understandable.
We cannot afford in this community to have additional lawsuits, nor can we be accepting of violations of the law. We have to be compliant. I don't like it, but here's what I want to close with in the statement. I'm looking for the best solution so that we can continue to facilitate their needs in a legal manner.
I agree with Sheriff Penzone that in the past, Maricopa County has broken the law. I do agree that Sheriff Joe went several steps further than the law allowed when dealing with illegal aliens. I get it. I also understand we spent a ton of money on lawsuits that did not need to be spent. At the same time, something has not sat right with me on the story that was given. And the story that you're hearing all over the place. These are illegal. Well, actually, I looked it up. They're not. People who do this are breaking the law. Actually, every other county in Arizona still honors these courtesy holds. Well, ICE just doesn't want to pick people up. Yeah, that doesn't make sense either. Well, we can't hold them for 48 hours. That wasn't the case before. I'll break it down for you because I actually did quite a bit of research on this. And I'll tell you where the truth is being stretched. Is this a political ploy? Is it appeasing George Soros, who kicked in $2 million to make sure that Sheriff Joe Arpaio was defeated? Or what is the real reason behind it? We'll get into it next. It's Reality Check on KTAR News.
Reality Check with Darren Damme, KTAR News 92.3 FM.
Hey, I also want to thank a KTAR texter. You can always text this information at 411-923. Somebody's saying that there's an accident on northbound I-17. It's a rollover in the median at milepost 259. And as of about 5 minutes ago, the first responders weren't on scene yet. Maybe they are now. But once again, northbound I-17 rollover at milepost 259. There you have it right there. All right, so you got this whole Sheriff Penzone situation. You know, I like the guy. I actually think he's a pretty honest guy. And no, I don't think that he's been calling George Soros and George Soros has told him what to do. Even though George Soros did put $2 million towards getting Joe Arpaio out of office, and even though the lawsuit that I believe triggered this entire policy change was from a lady named Jacinta Gonzalez Goodman, who is a George Soros Fellowship Scholarship winner with the Open Societies Foundation. She was out here and one of the people who was blocking the traffic for the Donald Trump rally out in Fountain Hills. Remember when Shea Boulevard was all blocked off? One thing that I just absolutely can't stand is people who are the first to cry when their civil rights they believe are violated, yet they had no problem violating the civil rights of the tens of thousands of people who wanted to go see the Donald Trump rally in Fountain Hills. No, they just stood right there in the middle of the road. Could you imagine if the Maricopa County Sheriff's Department blocked the road for some place that she wanted to go to? She'd be beside herself, suing for millions and millions of dollars. Why can't we sue her for millions of dollars for the destruction and the angst and the lost hours and everything that they caused during this? Anyways, the point being that there are people and policies and money that have been diving into Maricopa County to try to make this change. Also, I believe that Sheriff Joe Arpaio took advantage of the situation in his later years of his of being the sheriff, and I do think that he focused on people and pulled people over because of the color of their skin, or certainly stretched the rules as to who could be detained, who could be checked, and all that. So I get it. I see both sides of this. But something just did not sit right with this whole Paul Penzone change of policy. It says that he hears from Maricopa County Attorney Bill Montgomery on Friday afternoon, 2 Fridays ago, and then within like 2 hours changes the jail policy. It was a very ready, fire, aim approach. If anything, he's guilty of making a split-second decision without thinking through the consequences of it, and saying that ICE can't even take custody of these people while they're still in the jail, that they've got to go down and take custody of them outside of jail. It was dangerous for ICE. And if ICE did not pick up people during that time, I can understand why. Because it was a dangerous situation to release these illegal aliens out onto the street and then make ICE chase them down and try to capture them again. One thing that you got to understand is these aren't people that are just suspected of being illegal simply because of the name or the color of their skin. Their fingerprints are taken. Other information is taken. There are ICE officers in the jail, and it's not at Paul Penzone's decision to have them in there. They are there because of SB 1070. And SB 1070 has been tried in the courts all the way up to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court allowed some pieces of SB 1070 to remain. One of those being that every person going through the Maricopa County jails or Arizona jails would be checked by ICE. So when ICE puts out this detainer, it's not just because the person's name is Jose Gonzalez and they want to check every single person named Jose Gonzalez. They're also checking the fingerprints and other information as well. So when Paul Penzone goes in and starts saying certain things, I started looking into them. For instance, one thing that we've heard said time and time again is this is illegal. You cannot do this. It is illegal. That's simply not true. Yes, there are a couple of courts across the country, district courts, that have zero jurisdiction over Arizona, that have ruled that these courtesy holds are unconstitutional. However, they are district courts, and they are immediately put into appeal. And then they move up. And eventually it's going to wind up in front of the Supreme Court. Now, when Bill Montgomery told Paul Penzone, hey, I'm not really feeling this, I think we're putting ourselves at risk, that could very well be the case. But these are not illegal holds. To show you that they're not illegal holds, I give you two pieces of evidence. Number one, every other county sheriff in the state of Arizona at this very moment honors the courtesy holds. If these were illegal, they would be stopped. But they're not. The second bit of information that I throw at you is, hey, we all know that the DOJ has been all over Sheriff Joe and the Maricopa County Sheriff's Department. They even have court monitors in there. Why didn't the court monitors bring this up? If this was illegal, then why weren't people kicking and screaming about this? And why did it take Maricopa County Attorney Bill Montgomery to say, hey, wait a second, I think we may be putting ourselves at issue here? Number two, what I want to throw out here is by Sheriff Penzone going out and saying, hey, we've been doing these holds. They're completely illegal. We violated all these people's civil rights. We don't want to put ourselves at a situation where we may get sued again. Didn't he just admit that Maricopa County has violated every single person's civil rights that's ever been held on a courtesy hold? Didn't he just open up Maricopa County for every single person who's ever had a courtesy hold to file the lawsuit against Maricopa County? He just said, hey, we violated your civil rights. If anything, that puts Maricopa County at immense liability for lawsuits. This was not thought through. Case in point, this past Friday night, Sheriff Penzone said, quote, this afternoon I was advised it's within our legal authority to permit the transfer of custody of individuals who are deemed in violation of federal immigration law to ICE agents inside the Maricopa County jail facilities. So for the past week, they were turning people out onto the streets. That's dangerous for the people of Arizona. That's dangerous for the ICE agents who are trying to pick up and take back into custody these people. And if you saw the list of people who were released onto the streets, it was not all just using a false Social Security number. There were people that were involved in dangerous drugs. There were people that had weapons charges. There were people that had assault on police officer charges. And by the way, number three, this hold, we can't hold them a minute longer. Not 1 minute longer than the judge says. No judge issues an order that says at 1:53 p.m. this person must be released. The way that it works in Arizona is they must be released on a day. That means, and if you've ever been in a Maricopa County lockup, you know it could take anywhere from an hour to 6 hours to 8 hours to 12 hours to get processed out. ICE was sending down a van 2 times a day to pick up people. It wasn't that they could not hold them from 2:35 until 3 p.m. because they could. And ICE could have picked them up. Something shady about this. I'm telling you, something is shady about this. Is Paul Penzone a bad guy? No. Is he being politically pressured? I think there's a good chance of that. Is the story exactly as you've heard? My money's on no. But think about that for a second. If these were so illegal, why wasn't the DOJ kicking and screaming? Because they're in the jails every single day. Nobody brought it up but Maricopa County Attorney Bill Montgomery. And why is every other county in Arizona still doing courtesy holds? It ain't always like it's said. It is not always like it's said. This is Reality Check. My name is Darren Dammy. Coming up next, the DNC driving themselves off of a cliff. They've got a brand new leader. They got a bunch of people screaming at town halls. And we'll get into it next, and I'll tell you exactly why it is the opposite of the Tea Party is what's happening right now. This is KTAR News.
Reality Check with Darren Dammy. KTAR News 92.3 FM.
Hey, higher elevations looking for some decent snow. Man, I grew up in Pine and Christopher Creek, and there was nothing better than waking up in the morning knowing that there wasn't going to be any school, and you felt like you were on top of the clouds because all the snow was just so smooth and nice and beautiful. And we used to, this is back in the days of ATCs, three-wheelers. We were crazy. Those things are outlawed now. But yeah, we go out there and we just have a blast all day long. So Forest Lakes and Heber and Happy Jack, Flagstaff, looking for about 10 inches or more, 10 to 16 inches. So pretty cool, man. I envy you on days like today. Really quick, as to what we were talking about a couple of moments ago with Paul Penzone, the jail policy dealing with ICE. Got a text at 411-923, and it's a good question. Do illegal immigrants have civil rights under our Constitution? The answer is yes, they do. But they don't have all rights afforded to them in the Constitution. For example, they can't vote. Also, they cannot bear arms. And there's many other things that are in the Constitution that do not apply to them. However, in the 14th Amendment, it says, no state shall make or enforce any law which shall abridge the privileges or immunities of citizens of the United States. So that doesn't apply to them. Nor shall any state deprive any person of life, liberty, or property without due process, nor deny to any person within its jurisdiction the equal protection of the laws. So they are afforded equal protection of the laws, which would mean they can be held for no reason. The problem is that there is a reason. They have broken a law. And ICE has determined through their fingerprints, through their names, through their birth dates and other things, that they are lawbreakers. Therefore, they get the same law protections as any United States citizen. But guess what? They broke a federal law. And that's where the big difference is here, is that Maricopa County and some other sanctuary counties are going out there and saying, well, it's not our job to enforce federal law. Oh, they're the first ones to go arrest a bank robber and hold him until the FBI gets there. Or if somebody's messing around on an airplane causing a big scene, do you think it's the FBI that runs onto the tarmac at Sky Harbor Airport? That's a federal law. No, it's the Phoenix Police Department that goes in and takes the person into custody. So under that thinking, the Phoenix Police Department, if they did that, would be breaking the law by holding somebody till the FBI got there to take control. See, it just doesn't work that way. That's why this whole thing it really is political. There's a lot of politics in it. We'll move on. So you got the Democrats. The Democrats had a big weekend this weekend. They actually took on a brand new leader. And this was a very interesting situation. Of course, you remember Debbie Wasserman Schultz, who... honestly, there's not a person on this planet who I have less respect for. She's just pretty bottom of the barrel, man. You can't believe a word she would say. She would never answer you honestly. It just really is against. I'm trying to be nice here. She just stands for the opposite of everything that I stand for. Well, of course, when WikiLeaks came out during the election and we found out that Debbie Wasserman Schultz was working with Hillary Clinton in her campaign, and they were basically making sure that Bernie Sanders did not even have a chance at this election, right before the Democratic National Convention, Debbie Wasserman Schultz stepped down and became the honorary chair of Hillary Clinton's campaign. Ugh. Then, of course, Donna Brazile, the CNN contributor, became the leader of the DNC. Then, of course, we found out that Donna Brazile was feeding questions to Hillary Clinton for debates and hooking her up that way. But Donna Brazile was just temporary. So now you had the election, and there was all these people that were trying to go for it. It got so bad. Do you remember, and I don't have the audio here right now, but there was the one lady that was trying to become the DNC leader, and she was like, it's my job to tell white people to shut up because I need to listen to other people, and white people shouldn't be talking, and we need to listen. I mean, it was just so insane. Well, ultimately, it came down to two people. Representative Keith Ellison, the first Muslim representative in Congress. He's out of Minnesota. And if I remember correctly, I could be wrong on this one, but this is just off the top of my head. I think he actually made his oath on the Quran. He was favored by Bernie Sanders and the Bernie Sanders supporters. There was also a lot of controversy about him because he used to hang out with Louis Farrakhan. And people said that he was anti-Semitic and some things like that. But Bernie Sanders and his supporters were very passionate about having Keith Ellison as the new leader. Extreme left. Then you had Tom Perez. Tom Perez was President Obama's former labor secretary. And he's pretty far left too as well. He was favored by the establishment. Guess who wins? The establishment almost every time.
Someday they're going to study this era in American history, and they're going to study it alongside the Know Nothing movement. And they're going to ask the question of all of us, where were you in 2017 when we had the worst president in the history of the United States? And we will all be able to say the United Democratic Party led the resistance, ensured that this president was a one-term president, and elected Democrats across this country, from the school board to the Senate to the state treasurers.
All right. Well, right now, as it stands, the Democrats are in the worst shape that they've been in a long time. Two-thirds of, two-thirds of state houses, governors, the House, the Senate, the presidency. The people of America have spoken, and they've gone towards a more conservative leadership. The thing is that you've got all these town halls that are happening right now. All these town halls going crazy. Everybody's screaming. And the media is trying to say that this is the Democratic Tea Party. This is what they're doing. Well, you see, here's the problem. The same people that voted and got Donald Trump elected were the same people that voted and got President Obama elected. It's that 10% in the middle.
For her to show up at that inauguration, it's the second time that...
And she started crying a little bit again. I don't know, man. I don't know. I get sick of people making excuses for her. She blew it. See that? Nobody thinks that. She blew it. Look, you lost to a guy who said 3 things a week that would torpedo anybody else's campaign. How do you do that? That's like you're playing a football game and the other team throws 20 interceptions and you still figure out how to blow it. At what point do you take responsibility? They try to say, they would be like, oh, it was a bunch of, I love the racist white guy thing. A bunch of racist white guys. They came out of the forest and they were just going, Trump, Trump, Trump. It's like, where were all these racist white guys the last 2 elections when they could have voted against the black guy? They were fine. Oh, I don't mind the black guy, but this white lady, we got to stop her. It's going to take her 4-wheelers, Macuzzi.
You know, it's kind of a funny joke, but it really is true in that the Democrats have completely lost it by calling anybody who voted for Donald Trump racist, by going overboard, and they've picked their battles. You see, the Republicans picked battles that they lost, and that's where the Tea Party came in. The Tea Party was actually protesting against conservative Republicans. And many of us I would say I was kind of a Tea Party member, even though I was never a real member and never went to any of the protests or anything. But you know what? The Republicans stood against gay marriage. I didn't care about that. Give it up, Republicans. You lost that one. The Republicans stand strong against marijuana. Guess what? Most of us in the middle don't really care. And Republicans, you lost that one too. The Republicans stand strong against these things. Well, guess what? They stood strong against losing issues. And that's what the Democrats are doing right now. But instead of the Democrats going to Democrat town halls and being mad at the Democrats and saying, why on earth are you sitting here fighting over who's going to go into what bathroom when the vast majority of U.S. citizens say, hey, you know what, just go in the bathroom that your birth certificate is, no big deal. And you know what, if you've gone for, even my 13-year-old kid is like, I asked him about this. He said, what do you think about a transgender kid going into another bathroom? He goes, listen, if the person goes all the way and has a surgery, then let them go in whatever bathroom they want to go into. And guess what? You shouldn't be able to tell at that point. The problem is that you got some kid that just wants to dress up in a dress and then wind up going into the girls' bathroom. And you got an issue with that. If you haven't made the full commitment and you haven't gone all the way, look, Democrats, you're losing that one. You're losing that one. You're losing the one about telling people, hey, you can't buy sodas. You can't have more than 16 ounces in your soda. That's lame. Hey, you're losing the Affordable Care Act. I live here in Arizona. And before I got this job at KTAR, I was on Obamacare. $1,800 a month. Incredibly high deductibles. You're losing that one. It sucks. It needs to change. And you should be going in, instead of yelling at the Republican town halls, you should be going in and yelling at the Democrat town halls and saying, hey, don't be so flippin' left crazy, drive us off a cliff. But instead, at a Republican town hall, when they say, hey, we're going to start this thing off with a prayer, here's what the protesters do. Prayer? Prayer? Oh my gosh! Prayer! Can't have a prayer? Oh, this is horrible. Do your job. You see, that's the problem. I'm not even that religious. I could care less if somebody says a prayer at the beginning of a city council meeting, a town hall, or anything else like that. Democrats, you're driving yourself off a cliff. You need to come back to the middle. That's truly what the Tea Party did. That's why we got behind people like Ron Paul and Rand Paul, and even to a degree, people like Ted Cruz as well. It's Reality Check. This is KTAR News.
Reality Check. Reality Check with Darren Dammy. KTAR News 92.3 FM.
All right, I got to get into this really quick here. You can log on to Facebook.com/RealityCheck923. And you can see a couple of pictures I put up there. Donald Trump Jr. actually does hunting in Arizona. He got an incredible Arizona strip muley from up there in the Cayabab area. And also people were going off on him about getting a Triceratops because somebody had actually gone through and photoshopped him into that, and then people went crazy online.
We all know Donald Trump kids, they big fans of hunting things. And breaking news, they just killed a Triceratops. And they just killed a T-Rex too. And they killed a mammoth. Mm-hmm. That's right.
That's right. That's right. Well, hey, I took my son hunting this weekend. It was the rifle season for javelina. We went down to 37B, which is the area that we go is just east of Hayden and Winkleman. Beautiful area down there, cruising in the washes. And I caught a little bit of heat I got some messages of people saying, hey, why would you take your kid out and show him to respect life by taking a life? And I'm glad that somebody brought that up, and I answered in this way. You see, the reason why my son killed his first elk at the age of 11, and it's something in a day that neither of us will ever forget. October 9th of 2 years ago. What was that? 2015. You see, not only do we get to spend the entire weekend together, we sit by a fire, there is no TV, we talk like most dads and sons don't get an opportunity to do, and I learn intimate things about his life and things that he's going through. But he also learns about conservation. He learns how to love Arizona. He learns that we eat every single thing that we take. Thank goodness we didn't kill javelina this year because those are stinky little bugs. But we got a deer last year, and we got an elk the year before. And I want to play for you a little piece of his elk hunt right here. You did it, buddy. My little man. Rock on, Elijah. You did it opening day, dude. Opening day, buddy. Opening day. I'm so proud of you, Elijah. I love you, buddy. You nailed it on the first shot, too. That's a moment that we'll never forget. His respect for that animal was immense. Every time we sit down and we eat some of that animal, which we're still eating, it's incredible. I can understand if it's not your thing, but I can promise you, as a father, I'll continue to do it, and I wouldn't change it for the world.